Meet Benson. So Benson just graduated from high school. He graduated from high school and he's planning to go to university. But unfortunately, he's from a small village in Kenya. He doesn't have enough funds. So today he's approaching his parents saying, I want to buy a bike to be a rider for deliveries. I want to be able to afford a better education and change the life of my family. And we move to a better house. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today, alongside my team, we are presenting to you Sincerity's CBA strategy, a handcrafted innovative strategy ensuring to propel sincerity into every home in Africa to ensure that all of them can change the life of their family. But before we dive into our strategy, let my teammate actually show you a bit how our analysis led to this.
Now, as a company, we have been able to touch the lives of many people, including Benson, very soon. Now, as a company, you have established yourself as a rising player in the African bike market. Now, the bike market is valued at $3.04 billion, and at the moment, the revenue stands at $560 million. That is as of 2022. With a headquarter in Togo, you distribute to up to 15 countries, and this means that you've had at least 1,000 employees. Now, bikes are a very prevalent form of transport in Africa, for example. This is primarily because you have been able to leverage two key things that are central to the African traveler. The one is cost and the second is convenience, because most bikes tend to be relatively well priced and also very convenient for the user. Now, we are looking at three key market segments. The first is for daily transport. Here we are looking at students going to school, we are looking at workers who need bikes to go to work. Now, the second key division is special service. For example, a few startups in health use bikes to access regions that are not easily accessible, and a few of our policemen actually use bikes to navigate shaft terrain. And thirdly, we have business operations. With the growth of digitalization and e-commerce, a lot of companies are leveraging bikes to facilitate their transport. Now, with this understanding, how might Sincerity strategically position itself to tap into this very growing market and sustain our success? Now, in order to answer this question, we are raising three more questions. And the first is, how do we look at expansion into new markets, given the fact that at the moment, we are headquartered in Togo? The second one is, how do we compete favorably in the market? We are looking at other key bike companies, and we're also looking at alternative modes of transport. And the third question is, how do we leverage emerging trends? For example, we have ESG and digitalization. And now, to adequately think about our expansion, we are looking at the ways in which Sincerity has been able to present itself as a key market leader. The first is your infrastructural footprint. For example, the warehousing in Togo. The second one is a comprehensive value chain. Now, the moment Benson buys a bike, by leveraging Sincerity, can be able to get services up to the end of the life cycle. And that is not relative compared to a lot of their competitors. Now, the second one is localized services, which has shown through the robust manufacturing chain, in the sense that you understand who your consumers are, and you're designing bikes that can easily navigate the rough terrain. And thirdly, we are looking at the strategic partnerships that you have been able to make in the continent. And lastly, you have user-centric marketing. Your very last marketing campaign is one that realized that there's a disparity in gender when it comes to accessing bikes, and one of your adverts even had a female rider. Now, we believe that a strategic growth structure is one that will be able to leverage a lot of your existing key strengths. Now, we thought about what expansion looks like, and the country that we are fronting for your expansion is Nigeria. And in doing this, we are looking at a set of rubrics, and this includes political stability, economic growth, social fit, technological infrastructure, as well as legally, how easy is it to penetrate this country? Now, we believe that your entry into Nigeria will be facilitated by a set of issues. Now, the fact is the growing population. Now, we understand that there were a few concerns regarding political instability in Nigeria. But what we realize is that over the last few years, the population of Nigeria has been steadily growing, and there is a mounting pressure on the government to find employment and other job opportunities for the youth. So we believe that by positioning yourself as a key market player that can partner with the government, create more jobs for people like Benson, this will strategically aid your entry. The second one, we're looking at micro factors like fuel. Nigeria is a leading producer in fuel, and this means that fuel is relatively cheaper in the western side of the continent. And next, we are looking at existing social trends, which in the sense is how much our consumers engage in bikes, and finally, the economic feasibility of our plan. Now, we also noted that you're looking to roll out bikes in 2024, and we have this in mind. Now, the country we are positioning for this is Kenya. The first one is political goodwill. Over the last few years, our new president has made a lot of partnerships to ensure that this is done through incentives such as tax bill. The second one is established electrical infrastructure. Kenya has 80% plus electrical penetration and has the largest in the continent. The next one is economic returns and a relatively high cost of fuel. Now we believe that by penetrating Kenya, you have a very large chance of becoming a market leader in the e-bike sector. Now we also did a bit of competitive analysis to understand how exactly you stand relative to your competitors. Now we took the example of Bajaj, which has a relatively higher footprint, and we also noticed that their prices are relatively easier for consumers, and this explains why a lot of them are able to get to our consumers. A key strength that we noted on our side was our marketing. We are able to very efficiently reach our consumers and connect with them. Now, in moving forward for our strategy, we need to think about which exactly of these strengths we'll be able to leverage in order to compete favorably. Now, we also spoke about emerging trends, and the two key ones that we want to look at today is ESG and digitalization. Because as a motorbike company, we want to think about environmentally how we are able to fit in with our government policy and incentive. We are also looking at social awareness, and lastly, governance. How do we ensure that political instability does not affect us? Under digitalization, we are looking at operations management. For example, you provide a range of services to a consumer from when they buy a bike all the way to the end. This means that you can be able to leverage technology to make sure that this process is as seamless as possible. And next, we are also looking at how to empower our users and which of the key partnerships you can be able to nurture to facilitate this. Now, in summary, we want to expand into a new market, and we also want to look at where exactly we can roll out our e-bikes once they're out in 2024. We're also looking at how to stifle competition from other bike companies and alternative transportation modes such as cars. And finally, how are we able to leverage trends such as ESG and digitalization? And at this point, I'll welcome a member of my team to take us through our comprehensive strategy for you.
Thanks, Ruth. Now, based on the analysis that my colleague Ruth just presented, I'm excited to show you our CVE strategy that's not only going to help your company boost its revenue and establish its presence in Africa, but it will also help people like Benson find a meaningful job that they've always been looking for. So, just to start off with our first strategy, we've seen that the major need for this strategy to be implemented is to maintain the relevancy of your company in Africa. And our primary goal to do that is to increase the market share in Africa. Now, you might be wondering, how are we going to do this? We have a three-step approach to doing this. First of all, we're going to partner with companies and organizations such as SACCOs. So SACCOs is an NGO in Kenya that translates to Savings and Credit Organization. One thing that we've noticed that people like Benson face is that the high cost of bikes prevents them from accessing it. Now, we do understand that the price of our bikes are very high, but partnering with such organizations are going to help us not compromise on quality of our services, but at the same time provide access to services to people like Benson. Second, we've noticed that people use alternative modes of transportation because they care for their safety and convenience. Now, through our safety campaigns, we plan to ensure that riders and passengers are always feeling safe when they're choosing our bikes. And to promote that, we're going to organize these campaigns, and at the end of each program, we will have a certified sticker that bikers can put there on their bikes. And customers would know that this is a certified bike and I'm going to be safe in it. Now, what can this strategy benefit us in the long run? We've identified three major benefits. First, through this, we'll make sure to increase sales. We'll have more people like Benson buying our bikes. Second, we're improving our brand position. We're changing the narrative that bikes are no longer safe to a system where bikes are now safer to use and more convenient as well. And finally, all of this combined is going to help us establish our presence in Africa. Now, looking at this strategy, I'll invite my colleague to take us through the next strategy that we're talking about.
So, digital. You notice that in the African market, there's a lot of emerging trends coming up. One includes the rise of e-commerce, the rise of financial startups, fintech, and you want to take advantage of this because it's a digital economy, and if you don't adapt, you go fast. So, to meet the needs of e-commerce and food delivery companies, the like of DoorDash in South Africa, the like of Junior Food in Kenya, and etc. And how are you going to do that? To do this, you understand that Benson as a delivery guy, if he signs up for to deliver food, one thing he's going to struggle with is the packaging. It's usually produced mainstream. It doesn't have like fitted compartments where cold drinks and everything. They usually, when you carry food in that, it usually mixes up. And Benson will have a problem with the client when they deliver food and it's not been damaged along the way. So the best way to do that is sincerity. The best way to ensure that doesn't happen. One, you actually deliver customized packaging. It could be either cold storage or warm storage with enough for cup holders, food holders, and also cold storage where some of these startups are trying to deliver medical equipment and drugs to areas which are not actually better served. And if Benson is actually doing this, he wants to have some cold storage in the bike, which is currently not available in the market, not that widespread. And so Benson is able to actually deliver quality service to that. The other thing is fleet management. You understand? Some of these startups that are running these programs, and the startups that Benson would actually go on for, they don't have like robust fleet management systems in place. And what we mean by that is that one, you are going to offer these startup companies GPS tracking, where they can know the driver is in this place, he's doing an order here. Maybe you can even schedule the pickups, maybe according to this driver, according to the warehouse and last mile delivery. We can tell that driver go pick that, Benson go pick that, deliver it there according to like the GPS system you have incorporated. And then route optimization, because based on where the driver is and where the parcel has to go, one, it can optimize the shortest distance to go this way in order to also check the battery capacity, because in Kenya, they will roll out BEV, battery electric. And in Nigeria, we are planning to use ICE because of the existing oil infrastructure. And so, servicing. Basically, you understand that Benson, if he's going to ride for these delivery companies, one, every time there's a service going to be done, the boss will be calling Benson, let's meet at the garage, we do servicing this and this and this. But you understand that one, Benson could just get a notification on his bike that you need to go for servicing. And Sincerity, as a company, you offer free servicing after service, all the way the lifetime of the bike. And that will be easy. Benson just gets a notification, he goes for the servicing, and then the company records what has been serviced, the records are sent to the company, making things easier for them. And the benefit of that will be one, there'll be strong partnerships with these delivery companies that are coming up, food delivery companies, medical delivery startups. And there'll be a new income stream where you can actually charge these as a package to the company you're offering, the fleet management, the servicing scheduling. And then you can also, there'll be an advantage in innovation technology, where you'll be a company set apart not just as a manufacturer, but you're also into tech. The second strategy is the expansion into Kenya and Nigeria. And the reason we need to do this is to maintain relevance in Africa. Because basically, I'm an African, Benson is also African, but I can tell you, like, Sincerity, up to now, I did not know that name. I just knew it from this case. And how are we going to do that? One, in Kenya, you roll out BEVs. And the way to roll out these BEVs, you're going to have battery swapping. Because building your charging infrastructure is a bit expensive, and you may build the infrastructure in such a place that Benson cannot actually like really access it like fast. And then you notice we are borrowing this thing about M-Pesa, where M-Pesa has agents. You just go to an agent. It's not basically a Safaricom office, it's an agent of Safaricom. You go there, you do your transactions there. So what happens is that Sincerity will enroll these agents where they install solar PVs on their roofs, and then the batteries will be charged by renewable energy. Kenya is really good in doing renewable energy. And so what happens, you just go there, you swap your battery, you get a new charge gun, you go ride. So if it's Benson is doing trips, you'll ensure that it's a seamless operation, not waiting for charging time and everything. In Nigeria, it's ICE, but with ICE, most bikes don't have catalytic converters. But we are recommending that you as Sincerity, you adopt a catalytic converter to actually make sure that you reduce the emissions in Nigeria. Because Nigeria, there's a problem with electricity, it's not that widespread. So you have to go ICE. The other thing is compliance. You notice that most countries have tried to ban motorcycles because of the safety issues, drivers not complying to rules, accidents and everything. So the reason you're going, how you're going to do that, you're going to ensure that the service alerts. So Benson is always knows that his bike is roadworthy. The other thing is speed governance. So Benson won't be able to speed around and maybe get an accident at the paraxylene like we told you so. The other thing is overloading. Benson won't go ahead and put 4 passengers on the wheel or carry 200 kilos, and that will be really bad for him. We'll actually incorporate sensors to prevent that from happening. And the other thing is helmet tags. So Benson's mother can actually confirm that every time my son is on that bike, he has a helmet on. So in case of anything happens, at least he had a helmet. And how that is going to benefit is that, one, there'll be low ownership cost, because you understand that in Kenya right now fuel is really expensive because of increasing government taxes. And IMF, they're called SAPs. They are recommending that we tax a lot of fuel, but we subsidize electricity, renewable electricity. And low emissions, because in Kenya with BVs don't emit anything, and we are charging them with a renewable infrastructure. And in Nigeria, you have a catalytic converter, so you're taking care of the emissions. And safety of operator and passenger. So Benson is guaranteed a bit of safety, and whatever is carrying is also safety. And the implementation plan. So you understand that one, for competes, we are leveraging circles. So you're going to scout them. You're also trying to design a safety campaign. That's one, maybe do's and don'ts of a bike, how to keep safe on a bike. So you are going to design the campaign, you are going to design the safety program that Benson can actually participate. And you are going to sign dealings in the meeting with the circles themselves. And you're going to run the safety campaign basically. And then in the long term, it's going to implement safety stickers, where Benson can actually get a sticker saying he has taken part in a safety program, and that is certified right. So I'll invite my colleague to talk about finances.
Thanks, Stanley. Now that we know how we're going to benefit Benson, what does this entail for us financially? So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take you through our financial analysis that takes a 3-step top-down approach. But I'll first go through the revenue drivers. Now, remember I told you about the increased sales? Well, we're looking at the population of Kenya and Nigeria at 278.9 million, and the conversion rate of 18% through our marketing campaigns. This brings us the average revenue per user to $692, and ultimately $34.7 billion through that strategy. Second, since we're going to be offering customized hardware and softwares for people like Benson, we're looking at 50 million units to be sold in our first year, and 65% of those are commercial motor taxis. This brings an average revenue per user of $55 and $1.79 billion in total. So in our base case scenario, we're looking at $64.49 billion per year. And in our best case scenario, we factored in a 30% increase with minimum risk at $86.4 billion. And in our worst case scenario, where we have the highest risk possible, we're looking at $46.5 billion. Now, you might be wondering how we're going to translate this over the next 5 years. So we estimated the compound annual growth rate of 8%. And over the next 5 years, we plan to make $90.46 billion through our strategy from a total available market. Now, with great amount of income coming in, we obviously have a lot of expenses going up, right? So our expenses are segmented into 4 major categories. One is production and manufacturing. This is mainly the custom hardware and software. The research and development aspect, which most probably goes into packaging, the GPS systems, and the fleet management. The third is the marketing and campaign analysis, where we're looking at customer acquisition and social media influences. And finally, we're looking to partner with other NGOs and government organizations. And that brings us to a total cost of $475 million, and we'll finance this through our company's free cash flow or taking a loan from the bank. Now, I'll invite the RSN to take us through what risks do our strategies have.
So any good strategy comes with a set of risks. This is our 3 main we actually identified to ensure that this strategy can be implemented well. First and foremost, competitors take advantage of our partnerships. How we are intending to mitigate it is initiate exclusive partnerships. Secondly, we have reluctance of riders to choose our bikes. They might find better deals out there. It's always a competitive market. How we are intending to mitigate that is the use of social media. Over Africa, social media is quite a big platform, even for online shopping. So we're leveraging. Third and finally, it's political instability. Constant R&D to actually ensure that this doesn't affect us.
The presentation time is up. Here comes the 15 minutes Q&A section. Judges, you may begin to charge.
So, thank you so much for the presentation. It was quite in detail. I have a few questions specifically on your strategy. So you mentioned competition. Is it digitize or digitalize? What is the strategy? Digitalize. So difference between digitalize and digitize, because I saw you use interchangeably in two different places.
So between digitalize and digitize. So digitize normally it's a system which already has tech in it. So like you're just expanding. Digitalize it's an existing system which you're actually like adding an element of technology to it basically. So that's why digitalize, not digitize.
Okay. And third one is expansion. Just to unpack expansion a little more. And as a company, of course, we are on the board. We want to expand, right? So, can you unpack why is that a strategy and how would you expand?
So, I'll answer that. So, the reason it's a strategy is that one, we are looking into the emerging trends that are there. We are looking into the competitors, they're selling, and we're also looking into like a product, a new product. You want to, by quarter of 2024, you want to roll out a new product. But the units we are moving compared to Bajaj, those are looking numbers. So definitely the reason you need to expand is maybe you need to actually push more numbers. You need to push more numbers in Nigeria and Kenya. And the reason we are advocating for these countries is that one, they have a very thriving startup ecosystem. So it's quite easy to actually get these food delivery companies. And the purchasing power is also better because the economies are doing better at the moment of the very least.
Just to stop you there, sorry about that. Nigeria is already a market, so I don't understand when you said expand to Nigeria. So is there anything else that you want us to do in Nigeria?
It's to like expand the numbers we're doing, and also incorporate the catalytic converters.
From the case, do you remember Nigeria was which position?
Yeah. We saw that, but compared to other,
it's the number one market.
Yeah.
In the east of Africa, right?
So but compared to competition, the competition that was involved, the Bajaj and TVS.
Yeah, we felt that by strengthening your housing, your distribution outlets, you set yourself a chance to become even better global markets and even be able to expand easily into other countries. So we also felt it would be a prime market because we are looking at trends in the African continent. For example, the startup ecosystem. You will notice that there's a lot of investment being wired into countries like Nigeria, countries like Kenya. So we feel that you can be able to strengthen your position even further.
Thank you. And going back to competition very quickly. Again, help unpack why is competing a strategy. Of course, we are there to compete. So can you unpack that a little more? How you see that as a strategy and what you expect us as a board of directors to take forward?
Great, so I can start. So competition involves two aspects. One, it is from manufacture of other bikers, and second, it is the alternative transport that's available that renders bikers useless. Right? So what our competition strategy entails is trying to make sure that the narrative around using motorbikes is sustained in Africa, because there's a very bad narrative that it's not safe, that's number one, and that's why people use alternative modes of transportation. But at the same time that your company is selling bikes at almost $692 compared to Bajaj, for instance, is around $200. Now we understand that quality can be compromised, so to make sure that we're relevant in that competition, we're trying to partner with NGOs who can fund these schemes and offer people such as our persona Benson an access to a bike without confidence in quality. So that's our thought process on competitions.
So you mentioned a good point that our bikes cost more than double of our competition. So as a strategy, you mentioned going to NGOs. How can that solve for that?
So let me start answering it. So when you're buying a product, normally you would optimally go for a better quality, unless that it has a higher cost. But if you were offered the opportunity to actually be able to finance it, and you know that you can pay it on a long-term basis and get something better, which will run you better over the long term, you would actually go for it. So on that, following that trend that had actually been existed over the years and which keeps growing, we have come up with that part of our strategy that says that partnering with those people would actually help your company to ensure its continued exponential growth over the future.
Okay, so about circles. basically what happens, these are motorcycle taxis, the drivers, they come together, and then they form like it's a form of a merry-go-round. So they usually make contributions. So they contribute, let's say for this month, they go visit to one of them, with a little shopping, with a little cash bonus. And basically, it's an organization of fellow motorcycle operators who know each other. And
I got it. Thanks.
yeah. So partnering with them will enable you to like.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. So I just want to ask one question on the strategy execution. So I think we came to the slide of risks a little bit kind of late and maybe you didn't cover it, but can you just talk me through about the challenges that you might face and how you do not foresee in the strategy execution and what we need to be mindful about?
Okay. So one, you understand that one challenge is that, well, there's the government. In as much as you're trying to teach people depends on about safety, you're a motorcycle manufacturer. You're not a licensing institution. You're not allowed to give licenses. So the government may have a conflict with you while you're giving like a safety sticker, but instead of because some people may go out there and then they begin to think they have a license or something. The other thing is about the tech, because you may give someone technology where they can't overload, they can't overspeed, but what happens when they go vandalize the bikes because they actually want to break the law, but you actually provided that. How do you actually get consumers to actually be sensitized on that? So those are the two challenges I would see.
So like to actually mitigate that, what we decided also is that in Africa, mainly social media, Twitter, most exactly, which is X now. So they use it as a main social media platform to voice out actually opinions. So by leveraging it, we ensure that also we are educating the people in the sense of what we're trying to implement and show them how we can actually better it for themselves. Also, as you have noticed, there's a part of our strategy that shows that says that we're going to actually include a catalytic converter to the bikes. This is what we're suggesting. The reason behind is that the catalytic converter is also connected. It's an ecosystem that we're trying to connect for the bike. An ecosystem whereby it gives you a feedback also, telling you how the bike is performing on different kinds of roads. Because Africa has mostly dirt roads. So to ensure optimal mileage, we are actually creating that part of the ecosystem. And then that part also works together in the sense that when the people actually realizes that it makes the bike better, they wouldn't actually fiddle with the bike, like my colleagues say, and remove all parts of the system to ensure that they can break the mold. So that's how we're mitigating that overall risk.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I would have like one question. Do you have like a different strategy for different type of customer segment? As you mentioned, I think it's like 75% of the clients are motor taxi. And your example is Benson, which is more on the 10%. So should we expand and try to increase the use of motorcycle by individuals, or should we focus on the motor taxi with a specific strategy?
Okay, I'll talk about that. So in thinking about our key customer segments, so we first decided to look at the people who use bikes commercially. Now in this sense, we have been able to craft our strategy such that, for example, in the mentioning the case of Benson, who is supposed to raise money and buy a bike, we are talking about circles as a way to help them finance that. And we are also looking at customer segments such as users who get on bikes. That is where we have a strategy that helps us improve our brand positioning so that people have an idea that our bikes are relatively safer. So in thinking about how we are expanding to the different countries and the specific type of promotional messages that are going to the specific people, they are all going to be curated such that they address their key pain point. Another detail also is the market research that goes behind this. Even as you think about expanding into a country, it's important to understand factors like what language do they use in reference to bikes, what specific sites are they used. So we believe that comprehensive market research would work to inform the specific messages for our customer segments.
The other thing is to understand basically the ownership profiles of motorcyclists in Africa. So we are proposing like Kenya, for example. I'm from Kenya. I just studied Moshi. So what happens is that one, for example, my motorcycle, I just did not buy it straight up for my own use. What happened, it was bought, and then I did a few motor taxis with another driver who had actually borrowed it. He was paying some money, but still going. So what happens is that basically most people use bikes for motor taxis. And those who use it for personal consumption, they get feedback, most of the feedback from actually these mototaxi guys, because they're the ones who do the most of these bikes and they actually understand the bikes, they do better economics. So with a better bike for commercial use, even the individual use is going to actually be, because that is
So you would address the whole segment, both personal and commercial, with the same strategy.
Okay, you understand that one, this about commercial, we are talking about even like a package like fleet management, incorporating these sensors, but it's a package. You see the way you can get, you buy a car and then you put all the specs. So that is the same thing that you can have specs for commercial use and specs for individual use.
Just another question, very quickly. You mentioned in one of your strategy or your approach is to is ESG, with, for instance, lower CO2. Really, I mean, I think it's good. It's in the benefit of the country and maybe in the long term. But do you think client, customer will prefer to go, I mean, for this motorcycle because it emits less CO2 compared to a competitor? Is it like really a competitive advantage to have a lower CO2 and to invest part of the, I mean, to part of our cost into reducing the CO2 of our bicycles?
Okay, I will start. So we started by looking at the long-term audit, for example. How ESG-related tax incentives work in our countries is such that if you're manufacturing a product that has a better overall impact on the environment, you're able to get things like tax incentives and subsidies. So this means that we're able to position ourselves favorably to the government. We are getting tax subsidies which eventually have an effect into what price the end user is consuming. And also we have a very strong confidence that things like consumer attitudes towards the environment are changing. So we don't want to particularly lag behind in a change such as this at a time when a lot of people are becoming more conscious of climate change and its impact.
Okay, to add on to my colleague, talking about emissions and how we are going to reduce them, whether a customer is actually willing to pay for that. So in Kenya right now, there's a lot of complaints on the government on increasing taxes on fuel. Actually, a liter of fuel was going for 210 shillings, which is a lot in Kenya. People live there under $2 a day. But with electricity, you're getting it from solar panel installed, and it's getting charged, and then you just go for a swap. Charging a phone, if you don't have electricity, is around 20 shillings. So with a bigger battery, you can say you can charge it for 50, and you can get a better mileage. But buying a liter of fuel, petrol, for 210 shillings, and the mileage of a bike is usually 1 liter for 50 kilometers. So every 50 kilometers you have to spend 200 shillings. But you could spend way less than that, around 50 shillings. So it makes more financial sense actually. And you are reducing emissions in that sector.
Also, it works to your advantage. Let me explain how. By actually investing in that segment of the ESG, you're actually helping yourself in terms of making your bikes more affordable. In the sense that when, like my colleague said, when there's tax levies, when there is this part whereby it's going in every country where they're offering between 10 to 20% of the price of any vehicle which is sustainable. So this would also give you an advantage edge over competitors in the market.
As your key market you recommend, which are Kenya and Nigeria, it would benefit from this tax.
So I'll just clarify. So Kenya, we're going to e-bikes because of the system that are put in place right now. Nigeria, on the other hand, their fuel is really cheap. It goes for less than 10 cents of the dollar, almost 20 cents of the dollar. So that's why we're planning to expand to Nigeria and offer regular bikes to the customer.
Just one question for me as well. Just so the market was 3.4 billion. We're making 560 million, right? So out of the financials and out of this kind of that you show on account we call the strategy execution, how much do we make at the end? So that's 560 increases to.
Yes. So the initial financials that we saw in billions is actually the total addressable market.
Yeah.
So if you even factor in around 1% of that, bringing us to almost 500 million, that's what our strategy is planning to make. And we are funding it through our free cash flow. The total cost being almost around the 300 to 400 million.
Are we also increasing the addressable market, or are we just giving a bigger pie?
For the increasing the revenue, do you mean?
Yes. So are you that
Over
addressable
the-
market?
I see. I see.
Because we're
Yes.
actually are we increasing the addressable
Yes.
market?
So
as well,
over
or
the
just
years
giving
as
a
we
bigger
are
pie?
going, yes. So over the years as we're going, we are going to be increasing our total addressable market
To what's
at
the number?
8%.
8% compound.
Compound.
Okay.
So I have a question as well. We have time.
We have
Okay, last
So
question.
time's up for the Q&A session. Thank you, team.